good afternoon and welcome everyone. Unlike most talks, we're trying out a talk using two speakers, so this is a bit of an experiment for us as well as you. The theme for our convention, our mystery exploring the journey of the soul, in thinking about this, we thought about where this journey of the soul leads. There are all sorts of words for where it might lead. But oneness is a word that gets used often in the Theosophical Society, and so we called it the journey towards oneness. Now, there are lots of different paths one could take on the journey to oneness, but one that Donna was interested in was a method called Big Mind, Big Heart by Jompo Roshi. Donna, when she joined the TS in New Plymouth in 2010, early on gave a demonstration of this to our members. So for centuries, the Zen school has been making the revolutionary claim that any wisdom that is there within any of us, including the wisdom of the Buddha and of the ages, is all there in all of us. It can be realized at any moment or at any time in a flash. In other words, if we're willing and open, we can have a glimpse of Zen and move through what normally takes years of Zen meditation to realize and actualize. Recently, Donna bought an EEG machine and will be researching in the future the brainwave patterns. Then our title became The Journey Towards Oneness, Can Science Help? So, some dictionary meanings of the word oneness. For example, the state of being completely united with someone or something, or of being in complete agreement with someone. A sense of oneness with the natural world, for example. Or a state of being joined as one thing and no longer separate. We hear in the TS a lot, unity, the unity of all life, or the life of a deity, wholeness or harmony. And one of the basic ideas of Theosophy is divine unity, the whole existence, all of life, an indivisible unity or wholeness. And some call it the divine mind or divine consciousness. Some call it God, some call it nature. This divine unity forms the basis of the concept of universal brotherhood or kinship, which is the first object of the Theosophical Society. So it can also mean a state of consciousness or awareness in which an individual feels a profound sense of unity, interconnectedness, or a oneness with the universe, others, or a higher power. Often associated with spiritual and mystical experiences transcending the boundaries of individuality. And for those who like the HPB's Secret Doctrine glossary, Tadaika, and I don't know how to pronounce that, means oneness or identification or unity with the Absolute, the universal unknowable essence. Pararam has no name in the Vedas but is referred to generally as Tad or that for the scholars amongst you. So what do we mean by science, and in particular for today's talk? Well, from the Oxford, the systematic study of the structure and behaviour of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. And for today's talk, we're researching a little bit of neuroscience using a gadget that might be useful for biofeedback to help understand how our brains might be functioning in altered states. Can it help us in our age, our particular stage of evolution, and on our journey to oneness, or is it just a distraction? Well, there are some mentions of this in HBB's time, but also the word science crops up quite a bit. Here's just a few at random. the second object of the test to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy and science. And from the Golden Stairs, you'll all know this, and a constant eye to the ideal of human progression and perfection, which the secret science, Gupta Vidya, depicts. So we can think of Theosophy really as a secret science, if you like, the way she describes it here. And of course, I.K. Taimni's book, I'm sure many of you are aware of it, The Science of Yoga. So he really does, he's talking about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. There they are there. So what did some of the early Theosophical Society writers say about science? In this case, whether it could be of help in promulgating Theosophy. Well, from HPB's collected writings, she says, with every man that is earnestly searching in his own way after a knowledge of the divine principle, of man's relations to it, and nature's manifestations of it, Theosophy is allied. It is likewise the ally of honest science, as distinguished from much of that passes for exact physical science, so long as the latter does not poach on the domains of psychology and metaphysics. So what is HPB saying? It's a bit hard to understand, but the way I read it, the science of the 1880s was pretty limited in its understanding, and this limited science could be an ally to Theosophy, provided it didn't try to cover things in the domain of psychology or metaphysics, which was beyond its acceptance or comprehension. So what about today? Are we any further ahead in our attitudes? Does science comprehend things that are slightly outside the physical realm? Are we any further ahead with that idea? Here's another comment from the Mahatma letters from KH, Master KH. And he's talking about the limited science of the time. Perhaps you will now be prepared to better understand the difficulty with which we have to contend. Modern science is our best ally, yet it is generally that same science which is made the weapon to break our heads with. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword. He seems to be saying that while modern science can be Theosophy's best ally, its limited nature can also make it an enemy. So it seems to be pretty similar to what HPB was saying. HPB says in her collected writings, we have one determined object in view, and we will not deviate from the straight line, and our object is to show that occultism and its philosophy have not the least chance of being even understood, still less accepted in this century by the present generation of men of science. We would fain impress on the minds of our theosophists and mystics that to search for sympathy and recognition in the region of science is to court defeat. Psychology seemed a natural ally at first, and now having examined it, we come to the conclusion that it is a false suggestion and no more. And a little later, for the modern psychologist, dealing as he does only with the superficial brain consciousness, is in truth more hopelessly materialistic than all denying materialism itself.
I can confirm that as a behavioural psychologist, you're exactly right.
Wow, thank you. So in light of that, what the heck are we doing today looking at some neuroscience? Has the psychology of today improved since HPB's time? Has quantum physics opened the door of science into a slightly less reductionist view of the universe? What about the neuroscience? Well, we'll let you be the judge of that.
I was just going to mention that HPB also said Theosophy would have a lot more to do with psychology in the future than science, even though science, we may have some allies and stuff, and that's good for us. But the psychology side is where we go.
Yes.
Oh, you're probably going there.
Well, not necessarily, but I think neuroscience, it encompasses a lot of sciences, and one of them, of course, or studies at least, and one of them is psychology. Yeah. So, a little bit of history. Hans Berger was a German psychiatrist, best known as the inventor of electroencephalography. Say that when you're in a hurry. The EEG in 1924, and which is a method used for recording the electrical brainwave, electrical activity in the brain, commonly described in terms of brainwaves, and as the discoverer of the alpha wave rhythm, which is a type of brainwave. The EEG is a technique of neuroscience that measures the electrical activity in the brain by recording the fluctuations in voltage from ionic current flows within the neurons. You've probably heard of the synapses and things and the electrical currents that go between them. So different brainwave frequencies are associated with different mental states, and I've collected a few brief notes from Dr. Michael Pearce. Your brain is sending out low and higher frequencies all the time. Individual neurons are not measured, only the aggregate of them, thousands of them at a time, or the dominant one pulling the frequencies apart into the various lower and higher frequencies. So brainwave measurements mostly see the top of the brain, the cortex, but they don't see the brainstem or the cerebellum. They don't see the basal ganglia deep inside the cortex, which are responsible for a lot of emotional and obsessive kinds of thought. And some of these work automatically, either too much or too little. And these are the direct and indirect pathways. We can't see those cells because the only cells the EEG will pick up are the giant pyramidal cells. You can see a picture of one of them there. So it is a limited, what I'm saying there, it's a limited picture. Nevertheless. So neuroscience uses many scientific fields to explore the structure and function of the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord and peripheral nerves. For example, biology, psychology, physics, computer science and more. And one field you've probably heard of is clinical neuroscience, which has been primarily directed towards various neurological disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy. The basic premise seems to be that if something is causing a symptom and that results in abnormal brainwaves, then these brainwaves can be corrected. Then if these brainwaves can be corrected, it would correct the symptom. Now that seems pretty magical to me, but that's what it's based on. Louise Hay said, "I do not fix my problems, I fix my thinking. Then problems fix themselves." Thank you for that, Donna. That was great. Came up with that one. And Einstein said, "We cannot solve the problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." So it is about changing our thinking. So what we're interested in today is the correlation between meditative or spiritual practices in general and the brainwaves they produce. Are there recognisable patterns in brainwave EEG and MRI scans showing heightened activity in different areas of the brain? And there have been a number of prominent researchers into brainwave states and meditation over the last century, and some have had the cooperation of the Dalai Lama and his monks to investigate meditating Tibetan monks and the brainwaves that result. And one of them is Dr. Richard Davidson. Here's a clip. And it's from his Meditation's Impact on the Brain from 2016. I'll see if this plays.
For this length of time, and what we were looking at are gamma oscillations in the brain. They're very fast frequency brain oscillations, and they're seen in any ordinary person, but they're seen for very, very short periods of time, typically less than 1 second. they also don't have such large amplitude. And when Miguel Rinpoche was meditating, these signals were large, they were highly synchronized, and they lasted for many, many minutes. They lasted for the entire time that the meditation session was in progress. And that's what made them very visible. So that was really a very important moment, because we knew from a scientific perspective, there was a they are there. We can see that a person who meditates for even just 2 weeks, 30 minutes a day, shows a different pattern of brain activity than when they started 2 weeks before. And that is really important, because it suggests that the brain really is plastic, that we really can make these changes, and that it actually doesn't take that much. A total of 7 hours of practice was sufficient to change the brain in very objective, measurable ways. Well-being and warm-heartedness can be cultivated. We can think of them almost as skills, which can be enhanced through certain kinds of practice.
So there's hope for all of us. Just a brief picture of the sorts of brain waves. You've probably heard of these. Gamma waves are the highest frequency. They're associated with higher mental activity, perception, and problem solving.
And I'm going to add in a little detail. Gamma waves are normally found in small children. They are recognizable from pre-birth to about 4 to 5 years of age. They seem to be the tape recorder section of the mind, recording everything around it as it integrates itself to its culture.
Thank you. There's the beta waves associated with alertness, active thinking, concentration, and problem solving. Alpha waves, awake but relaxed, calm and non-attentive. So often I think most of our general state is somewhere between alpha and beta. Theta waves, light sleep, relaxation, meditation and creative states, also lucid dreaming. And delta waves, deep sleep, unconsciousness and some abnormal states. So Ken Wilber, using an EEG, highlighting the brainwave activity, and here you can see him reducing his brainwaves down to nearly nothing.
And we see, however, and that's long-term meditators, usually of 20 years or longer, start to achieve constant consciousness around the clock. In other words, there's a witnessing that occurs during waking, dream, and deep sleep states. That's often accompanied by delta pattern while the person is sleeping in deep dreamless sleep. They show the standard delta. Then they also show theta and alpha activity while in the dream state. In a moment, I'll try to reproduce that pattern while awake. What we see here is an attempt to stop the delta wave, and this is that specific type of meditation I was talking about. So it's very difficult to describe, but even the sense of witnessing is going to disappear. That's what I'm trying to do subjectively. And so what you're going to see here is virtually all patterns, including delta, come to zero. And that's, let me pause that for a moment. That's basically what we see here. Is there's a very, very minimum amount of brainwave activity of any variety, alpha, beta, theta, or delta. And the subjective state is one of, there's simply awareness, but it's not confined in any sense to the individual body-mind. Needless to say, it's very difficult to describe. Those who have, I think, long-term meditators and those who have a sense of sahaj or non-dual awareness realize that awareness really isn't generated in the brain or even in the body-mind. This is, I believe, a type of correlate that we're going to see in the upper right quadrant when these states are, they're not really being realized because they're ever present, but they're being, the individual body-mind is being aligned with those states. Again, needless to say, a lot of research to be done on this. This is a preliminary attempt to correlate some of these upper right quadrant brainwave patterns with certain subjective states of consciousness.
And I've got another little clip from Ken Wilber, also from that same series. This is a mantra-based one, and you can see the difference
Again, and what I'm going to show, I think, in the next sequence here is a much more standard pattern of meditation. Basically what we see here is, and let's pause that. So right around here, what we're seeing is, in the upper part, much more typical pattern for meditation. What I'm doing here is a kind of mantra meditation, so we expect to see a much more typical, conventional type of meditative pattern, which is, you can see a large bump in the alpha region. So there's little beta activity, but a large amount of alpha, and there's some theta activity as well. Of course, there's still a large amount of delta. Now here what's happening basically is there's delta, theta, and alpha. Now that's typically we see this in long-term meditators while they're sleeping. So the delta pattern represents deep sleep state, and the small amounts of theta and larger amounts of alpha are classically meditative states. Saying the three of those together generally happens in deep dreamless sleep when people that are lucidly aware in deep dreamless sleep. And this type of pattern is being reproduced here in somebody who's awake. Again, I think that's from years of meditation when the body-mind itself is adapting to this type of sahaj, or ever-present awareness.
So with that little introduction to neuroscience, I'd like to hand over to Donna to lead you through the meditation.
Okay, I have to do the disclaimer, and just somebody in the back row, cup your ear if I suddenly go down in volume. We're participating in Big Mind, Big Heart. You're going to try it out for yourself. I found that this gave you an opportunity to see what it's like and feel it. We're still working on the technology. We intend to be experimenting with the EEG machines to verify the existence, but that technology is fighting us a bit at the moment. This does not require your participation. If you feel triggered by any of the voices, we're going to talk to a series of voices, and you notice I had a handout for people, so you can look at that. It's an opportunity for you to see the integrated process. This was developed by Jinpo Roshi, a Zen master in the state of Utah. And there was some medical research done at the time he was developing. It was near 2000, but I haven't been able to track that down. But I remember reading it then. It's a process where the parts of the whole person are given a voice and interact with each other. And the process unfolds. All facets of the voices are integrated, thus embodying the Buddhist term of oneness or ground of being. And it's because it's a fairly simple procedure, I'm going to go through it fairly quickly today, and I will be asking for responses from individuals, but we can't take the time to have the whole room do it, unfortunately, because we have limited time. We're going to talk to a series of 20 voices, and you're actually looking at the page, and each time you respond to a voice, I need to ask you to do two things. One, I want you to move in your seat just a little bit. What you're doing is changing your perspective. It's a tiny change in perspective, but just enough of one to trigger the response in the brain that we need. And I'm asking a series of questions, and the first thing I'll be saying, I am speaking with, and we're going down the list, so you will answer back the name of the individual voice of your mind that is speaking at that point. I am speaking, I am guardian, I am the victim. We're going through each one. At a certain point, we hit the transcendental voices, and you'll notice this labeled there. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to quickly feel the size of the room, the space you're in. Just feel it. Okay, know where you are? Got it, we're starting. The two first voices are the guardian voices. They are protector. All right, so you're moving, everybody move. By the way, if you don't want to participate, just hold still.
Sorry for me to be comfortable doing this. Tell me the point of it.
Oh, the point of it is you will see the task that Jinpo Roshi was attempting to do is give you the experience of Satori by a simple mind integration. It allows you to see what that is like without 20 years of practice. You're only getting a taste, but ideally you see where your target is if you are meditating. I probably have people in here who are long-term meditators who have probably had the enlightenment experience and know, and that gives me a group capable of confirming then this is it. I've been in 2 larger sessions, and with people who were meditators, we had a much stronger response from the room. That I wasn't doing; these were done in conferences. Okay, we're talking to the first 2 voices. They are called the guardians. They are controller and they are protector. We're going to do those a little bit together because I need to speed this process up. Because this is just a taste. It's like I've given you 1 cracker with a piece of cheese on it, no more. Okay, so don't. It's not too much, dude. So we just wait our way through. So you're moving. Everybody move. Come on, I got to get you used to it. Without it, you won't link. I am speaking with protector. Your response is, I am protector. I am protector. Good. What are you protecting you as an individual from? I'm just going to get 1 or 2 answers. What protector job does for you, please? Protects the world. What does the protector do for you, please? In the green and orange. Protects you?
My dog.
Your dog. Excellent. So protector is very hard-working. Oh, good person. Well, let's talk to the other guardian, which is controller. I got it in the wrong order. Controller. I am speaking. Everybody moves. I am speaking with.
I'm speaking with.
I am controller.
I am controller.
What do you control? What do you control, please?
The environment in which I live.
The environment in which you live. What do you control, please?
My surroundings.
Your surroundings. Now, these are your protectors. Jinpo Roshi explains that in the Western world, you can't get rid of the ego. It always travels with us. These 2 are symbolizing ego. They travel with us. In the East, they drop body, mind, they drop ego, but we don't do it well, so he modifies it. So these protectors are always there, but we're looking at a lot of other protectors here. The skeptic, I'm going to do these quickly. The skeptic, as Buddha explained, was the ideal way to reach enlightenment, because if you question absolutely everything, you'll probably be enlightened fairly quickly. And I thought that was a pretty good quote. Fear. Now, fear's a little tricky, because we're going to speak with fear. I am speaking to, everybody move, and you are fear.
Fear.
Ooh. What does fear do besides be really annoying? What does fear do for you, please? Makes you feel sick. What does fear do for you, please? Shrink. Now, one of the odd things about fear, it's technically one of the guardians. And you need to think of him as on the outside edge, watching for problems coming in from a distance. On the outside edge. So he's got a job. He's doing it. Now, how's the salary with this? Oh, pretty good. What about the hours?
The hours that's constant.
It's 24/7.
Always on the lookout.
And so these voices in you are serving a purpose. The fixer. I am speaking with
The fixer.
I am
The fixer.
fixer. What do you do, please? All the way back, white and green, blue stone. Yep.
Sorry, heart.
Fix the heart. Ah. Fixer, please. What does fixer do for you?
Make everything better.
Make everything better. Now, all of us in this room are fixers because we serve. And that fixer question came up brilliantly this morning. But a lot of times fixers, when they run out of things to fix, kind of take something apart to fix it. And they may or may not put it back together. A little bit of a troublesome voice. But the motivation's good. The victim. Move. I am speaking with, I am the victim. I am the victim. Now, victim gets to tell the story, and everybody is very supportive and tries to take very good care of him or her. But that's all that's going on. There's a much more important voice, and that is damaged self. Victim gets to tell the story, but I now want you to have a meeting with damaged self. I'm moving. I am damaged self.
I am damaged self.
I consider this the bravest and most heroic of all the voices. It's the one that takes the blow. It doesn't complain. It doesn't tell the story, but it's there when the tough thing has to be done, and it doesn't. And that is damaged self. Now we're going to get some help for damaged self. because we're going through some other voices. But now we're going to talk to a particularly special one, the vulnerable child, and I think it's much more accurate to call it the innocent child. Innocent child. I am speaking with, I am, everybody move.
I am innocent child.
Wow. What do you do? Play. Play. Are you creative? Yeah. Now I want you to see all these other voices as gathered round this innocent child, protecting it. These are like parents protecting this creativity nugget, this point of inspiration. Well, let's take a quick look at desire. I am speaking with, I am, move, desire.
Desire.
Oh, wow. What do? Want things. And after you find them, you go want something else? Yeah, that's the problem with desire. It's got, it's a job and he's doing it. Okay. Seeking mind. Moving. I am. I am
Seeking mind.
Feels different, doesn't it? This one's seeking. Take a moment and feel it. I'm not going to ask this. It's just seeking. It's doing its job. And I want to move to the mind that seeks the way. You're moving. You're answering. I am the mind that seeks the way. I am the mind that seeks the way. It's got a target. It knows where it's going. It's seeking the way. By the way, you often find there's an ethical point of transition at that point. I am the follower of the way. Move. I am the follower of the way.
Follow the way.
Follow the way. Changing. Feels interesting. Let's do the biggie. I wish to speak to the way. I am the way. Feels different, doesn't it? Has the room changed? Now we're into big mind. I wish to speak with big mind. You're moving. Big mind. Now this is the coordinator, the supervisor for all these other voices. It's the one that's thinking ahead, organizing things. We're going to run into higher control ones, but that's big mind. But big mind is accompanied by big heart. And big heart comes in two parts. Masculine big heart and feminine big heart. And the first one we're going to talk to is masculine big heart. I am masculine big heart. Feels different, doesn't it? Doesn't feel like the way, doesn't feel like big mind. It's, would you say stronger? Does it feel stronger? Yeah. Is it tough love? It's warm. Warm feeling. Tough love. It's protection. It is strongly. That's a very good phrase for it. Very good, strong. Let's look at the next one. I wish to speak to feminine big heart. I am speaking with
Feminine big heart.
I want feminine big heart to invite in damaged self and give him a hug. What is feminine big heart? It's on the sign. Unconditional love. But now we need to put the two together. You're moving. I am speaking with integrated, masculine big heart, integrated, feminine big heart is one. I am masculine big heart, feminine big heart as one. They're both necessary. They're two different forms of the heart's compassion. All right, they didn't have the tough one, the master. Jim Paul Roshi always makes a joke about, gentlemen in the room, you have to be careful with this one. You don't want to take on too much power, it's plain dangerous. Okay, everybody wiggle. I am speaking with
The master.
You are in control. You are responsible for all of these voices, all of these ideas. Where does the buck stop? With Master. With you. Who's responsible?
The master.
All choices are yours. Now the important one. This one has to be said in unison. I am speaking with, we have to do integrated, free-functioning human being. They're all there. Now, I just took you on a series of voices. The room changed, you changed. Does it feel different? You didn't take a drug, you didn't even do caffeine. It was a very unusual discovery he made, but it gets very close to grounded being, which is the goal of Buddhist enlightenment. And suddenly, you notice, I'll do quick. Is anybody connected to a space larger than this room? Like you feel like you're in a vast space? Yeah. If that's grounded being, all this other fluff that we have as our culture isn't actually real. And if we can prove this on an EEG, you can train your mind to go to it. We don't know for sure, but we're doing research on it. It appears to be possibly either an alpha or an alpha-gamma combination, but we don't have the documentation yet. But it's interesting we can get these results. And then we're into our last little bit. And we do this one a little bit together. Oh, well. We're doing research. I'll put a notebook at the back desk so people interested in either hearing about this research or participating, because we're we're hoping to come back and tell you how it comes out. You've noticed multitude of slides depending on your current life situation, sometimes trigger. One example is the sensation the room has changed in size if the space feels bigger. Gives you an opportunity to integrate mind and heart given the Buddhist embodiment of oneness or grounding. So the next one. Okay. I'll switch slides.
Thank you, Donna. So just to end with, and mainly because it includes the word oneness, which our journey has been towards this afternoon, the Universal Invocation written by Annie Besant, the second president of the Theosophical Society. So those who wish can join in, as perhaps you would like to join in and say this. We'll say it all together. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Thank you.